Now, today I wanted to read a little passage in the Book of Enoch. Now, why do I want to read from the Book of Enoch? Because this will pertain to the sun. And it really has a very precise definition about the movements of the sun in our realm, whatever you want to call it. And I think it's really interesting because, for thousands of years, the sun has continued its similar paths and its 4 seasons, and it predictably rises at this point and it sets at that point in the particular season that it corresponds with. And if the Earth was just spinning at 1,500 miles an hour with a wobble, there would be some deviation. I mean, this wobble implies that there is an imperfect spin, and that is the excuse that we're given for the seasons. But there would be an occasional, maybe winter would last 4 months longer, something within the supposed, several thousand years of record keeping. And yes, there are occasional, deviations from this, occasional tales, and the year with no summer, and there are other explanations for this, but still, that's there would be much more, in a wobbling, spinning projectile. And so I think the Book of Enoch, has a very, very precise explanation for what's going on. And I won't say too much, I'll wait until I read. But, again, if it didn't change, if it didn't actually line up or match up with what we read in the Book of Enoch, then fine, we could just discard that. But it does line up. And, I think it's probably better than our system now. Our system doesn't work. We have to add a leap year just to account for our flaw. And again, if something was spinning or wobbling, would it not imply that eventually it will slow down like a spinning top? Are we to believe that this is a perpetual motion? Or, we're not allowed to believe that perpetual motion exists for power usage on our planet, even though it is possible. But we're told that that doesn't exist. Oh no, nothing can spin indefinitely. But when it comes to our planet, we're supposed to believe that there's indefinite spinning, not even a little slowing down or a little bit of drifting in or out due to the supposed gravity. Nothing of that nature. This, if that was the case, we could create a little 0G environment and essentially replicate a little perpetual motion machine. If that was the case, if it was possible out there, we could replicate it down here. So, they want to give us one, but then we can't have the other. It's either one or the other. But in any case, I'll read from the Book of Enoch, and, anyone could read from it, but, I never began reading it until it was read to me, and it perked my interest, and so I'm going to share that with you today. So I hope you enjoy. So I'll be reading from the chapter 72 of the Book of the Heavenly Luminaries in the Book of Enoch. The Book of the Courses of the Luminaries of the Heaven, the relationships of each according to their classes, their dominion, and their seasons, according to their names and places of origin, and according to their months, which Uriel, the holy angel, who was with me, who is their guide, showed me. This would be Enoch that is being shown this. And he showed me all their laws exactly as they are, and how it is with regard to the years of the world, and unto eternity, till the new creation is accomplished, which dureth till eternity. And this is the first law of the luminaries. The luminary, the sun, has its rising in the eastern portals of the heaven, and its setting in the western portals of the heaven. And I saw 6 portals in which the sun rises, and 6 portals in which the sun sets, and the moon rises and sets in these portals. And the leaders of the stars, and those whom they lead, 6 in the east and 6 in the west, and all following each other, in accurately corresponding order. Also many windows to the right and left of these portals. And first there goes forth the great luminary named the sun, and his circumference is like the circumference of the heaven, and he is quite filled with illuminating and heating fire. The chariot on which he ascends, the wind drives, and the sun goes down from the heaven and returns through the north in order to reach the east, and is so guided that he comes to the appropriate portal and shines in the face of the heaven. In this way he rises in the first month in the great portal, which is the 4th. And in that 4th portal, from which the sun rises in the first month, there are 12 window openings, from which proceed a flame when they are opened in their season. When the sun rises in the heaven, where he comes forth through that 4th portal 30 mornings in succession, and sets accurately in the 4th portal in the west of the heaven. And during this period, the day becomes daily longer, and the night nightly shorter, to the 30th morning. On that day, the day is longer, and the night by a 9th part, and the day amounts exactly to 10 parts, and the night to 8 parts. And the sun rises from that 4th portal, and sets in the 4th, and returns to the 5th portal of the east 30 mornings, and rises from it, and sets in the 5th portal. And then the day becomes longer by 2 parts, and amounts to 11 parts, and the night becomes shorter and amounts to 7 parts. And it returns to the east, and enters into the 6th portal, and rises and sets in the 6th portal 31 mornings on account of its sign. On that day the day becomes longer than the night, and the day becomes double the night, and the day becomes 12 parts, and the night is shortened and becomes 6 parts. And the sun mounts up to make the day shorter and the night longer, and the sun returns to the east, and enters into the 6th portal, and rises from it, and sets 30 mornings. And when 30 mornings are accomplished, the day decreases by exactly 1 part, and becomes 11 parts. And the night 7. And the sun goes forth from that 6th portal in the west, and goes to the east, and rises in the 5th portal 30 mornings, and sets in the west again, in the 5th western portal. On that day the day decreases by 2 parts, and amounts to 10 parts, and the night to 8 parts. And the sun goes forth from that 5th portal, and sets in the 5th portal of the west, and rises in the 4th portal for 31 mornings on account of its sign, and sets in the west. On that day the day is equalized with the night, and the night amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts. And the sun rises from that portal, and sets in the west. and returns to the east, and rises 30 mornings in the third portal, and sets in the west in the third portal. And on that day and night, the night becomes longer than the day, and the night becomes longer than the night, and the day shorter than the day, till the 30th morning, and the night amounts exactly to 10 parts, and the day to 8 parts. And the sun rises from that third portal, and sets in the third portal in the west, and returns to the east, and for 30 mornings rises in the second portal in the east, and in like manner sets in the second portal in the west of the heaven. And on that day the night amounts to 11 parts, and the day to 11 parts. And the sun rises on that day from the second portal, and sets in the west in the second portal, and returns to the east into the first portal for 31 mornings, and sets in the first portal in the west of the heaven. And on that day the night becomes longer, and amounts to the double of the day, and the night amounts exactly to 12 parts, and the day to 6. And the sun has traversed the divisions of his orbit, and turns again to those divisions of his orbit, and enters that portal 30 mornings, and set also in the west opposite to it. And on that night has the night decreased in length by a 9th part, and the night has become 11 parts, and the day 7 parts. And the sun has entered into the second portal in the east, and returns on those his division of his orbit for 30 mornings, rising and setting. And on that day the night decreases in length, and the night amounts to 10 parts, and the day to 8. And on that day the sun rises from that portal, and sets in the west, and returns to the east, and rises in the third portal for 31 mornings, and sets in the west of the heaven. On that day the night decreases, and amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts, and the night is equal to the day, and the year is exactly as to its days 364, and the length of the day and of the night, and the shortness of the day and the night arise through the course. And the sun, these distinctions are made. So it comes that its course becomes daily longer, and its course nightly shorter. And this is the law of the course of the sun, and his return, as often as he returns 60 times and rises, the great luminary which is named the sun, for ever and ever. And that which rises is the great luminary, and is so named according to its appearance, according as the Lord commanded. As he rises, so he sets, and decreases not, and rests not, but runs day and night, and his light is 7-fold brighter than that of the moon. But as regard size, they are both equal. Well, that's it. And of course that was simply a little passage on the cycle of the sun. One of my favorites, and of course it goes on in great detail about all the aspects of this cosmology, but one of my favorites is the passage on the winds and the different portals that affect the winds. And I just find that absolutely fascinating. You know, it's really as if this is a machine and they open up different portals, and, you know, these ones blow cold, and some blow warm, and some bring prosperity, and some bring hoarfrost and famine, and it's really, really interesting. So I'll leave it at that for today. I hope you enjoyed. Many blessings, and I'll see you in the next video.